Today, we're diving into something that hits close to home for a lot of veterans: the stigma around disability. Now, I know that some of you might be thinking already, Todd, I'm not that disabled. I just have that. Yeah, and that right there, that's exactly what we need to talk about today. I've been working with veterans for years, and I hear the same things over and over again. Sentiments like, I don't want to be seen as broken, or I'm not as bad off as some of the other guys. I can still do my job, so I'm fine. And here's the thing, I get it, I really do. The military taught us to push through, to adapt and overcome, to never show weakness. That mindset served us well in the uniform, didn't it? But here's what I want you to consider today. What if we've been looking at this all wrong? When VA uses the word disability, they're not making a judgment about your worth. They're not saying you're broken. They're not saying you can't contribute. What they're saying is essentially this: we recognize that your military service has had a lasting effect on your body or your mind, that something just isn't functioning properly the way it's supposed to. And we have a responsibility to acknowledge those effects. That's it. That's all it is. VA's definition of disability is much broader than what most people think. You don't need to have lost a limb or have severe PTSD from military trauma to have a service-connected disability. When we hear the word disability, we think of wheelchairs and white canes and major psychiatric conditions. But from a VA benefits perspective, disability just means a disease, injury, or some other physical or mental defect. Or more simply stated, some aspect of your body or mind that doesn't function normally. I work with veterans who have scars from training accidents. Those are disabilities. Veterans with knee, leg, hip, or back pain limiting their normal use of their bodies. Those are disabilities. Veterans with chronic headaches or stuffy noses from toxic exposures. Those are disabilities too. These aren't necessarily life-altering conditions. They might just be annoying or uncomfortable. But legally, they're still disabilities because they represent something that doesn't function normally anymore. In the VA context, almost anything that doesn't function normally because of your service can be considered a disability and can serve as a basis for obtaining VA benefits. I work with a lot of veterans who tell me, Todd, I don't really think about my back pain anymore. I just take some aspirin and I get on with it. Or, yeah, I have some trouble sleeping, but doesn't everyone? Or, sure, I get anxious in crowds, but I just avoid them. No big deal. And I ask them the same question. Okay, but what about your spouse? What about your kids? How do they feel when you're grumpy because you're in pain? How do they feel when you can't go to the school events because there'll be too many people around? How do they feel when you're up all night tossing and turning? Or when you can't or won't play catch with your kids or have sex with your spouse because of the pain or the low self-esteem? Because here's the truth, and this might be hard to hear. When we minimize the effects of our service-connected conditions, we're not just affecting ourselves. We're affecting the people we love the most. Others will see this, and when you can't or won't take care of yourself, you're hurting them too. And you're hurting yourself. Think about it. When you minimize your symptoms or you hide or ignore your disability, you're actually minimizing your service, minimizing your own sacrifices of your body and your mind. You're re-injuring yourself psychologically. You're basically saying that the sacrifice doesn't even matter, even though you know it does. It's like you're gaslighting yourself. You're letting the stigma keep you from getting the help you deserve. Now, let me tell you something that might also be hard to hear, but I think it's important. Do you think people don't notice your disability? Do you think that ignoring it or minimizing it is somehow hiding it from everyone around you? They see it. Your family sees it, your coworkers see it, your friends see it. when you limp because your knee hurts, when you get irritable because you didn't sleep, when you avoid certain situations because of your anxiety, people notice. Take a moment and think about this. Did you notice the scab on my forehead? Of course you did. And that's relatively small and minor. The point is this: people notice the small stuff. They're going to notice the more significant stuff too. You can't hide it. And even if you can cover it up with clothes or an excuse, people will figure it out by your actions or your inaction. And here's the thing: once they figure that out, they're going to think whatever they want to think about it. You can't control that. But you know what you can control? You can control how you handle your disability and its effects on you. And by doing so, you're influencing how people see you. When you own your own disability, when you take responsibility for managing it, when you actively work to get better, that changes everything. No one expects you to be a superhero, seemingly immune to the injuries and diseases you suffer. Instead, they'll see someone who's dealing with challenges head on. Instead of seeing someone who's making excuses, they'll see someone who's taking action. And then there's the stigma of getting help from the VA. Look, I want to be clear about something here. The VA disability compensation system is not charity. It's not a handout. It is something that you should not feel guilty about using. It's recognition, it's acknowledgement, it's the country saying, we asked you to serve, and that service came with a cost, and we're going to honor that cost. Here's something else to consider. The VA disability system is similar in some respects to workers' compensation. Think about it. If you were injured in a civilian job, you'd likely be entitled to workers' compensation benefits from your employer. Same here. The VA compensation system is essentially workers' compensation for military-caused disabilities. Similarly, the VA healthcare system is essentially private insurance coverage for military-caused disabilities because before enactment of the Affordable Care Act, pre-existing conditions, including those caused by military service, were excluded from private insurance coverage. So to get medical care, veterans had to turn to the VA. So quite simply, these benefits are here because of the risks inherent in military service. They put veterans who are injured on the job during service on the same level playing field as civilians who never served. And here's something else I want you to think about. When you get that disability rating, when you receive that compensation, you're not just helping yourself. You're helping your family, you're helping your kids go to college, you're helping your spouse not worry about medical bills. You're helping your community because you're a veteran who's taking care of yourself and your family. That's not selfish. That's being responsible. Now, I know some of you are thinking, okay, Todd, this all sounds great, but how do I actually change how I think about this? Well, here are a couple ideas. First, start using different language. Instead of saying, I'm trying to get disability, because honestly, nobody wants a disability, try saying, I'm documenting my service connection. Instead of, I don't want to be seen as disabled, try, I want to acknowledge my service and how it affected me. Or I want to be seen as someone who served my country and can rise above my limitations. Instead of, I'm not as bad as other people, try, my service and sacrifice matters regardless of anyone else's situation. Instead of thinking, I don't deserve VA benefits, try thinking, I'm acknowledging the price I paid for my service and making the government do the same. And second, think about your legacy. What do you want your kids to learn from watching you? Do you want them to learn that they should minimize their struggles and not ask for help? Or do you want them to learn that it's okay to acknowledge when something has affected them and to seek support and help? You know what courage looks like? Courage looks like a veteran who for years has been telling himself that his PTSD isn't that bad, and finally sitting down and talking to someone about it. Courage looks like a veteran who's been ignoring her chronic pain, finally admitting that it's affecting her family too. Courage looks like a veteran who's been struggling with depression, finally saying, I need help, and I've earned the right to get it. So here's what I want you to take away from today's episode. There is no shame in having a disability. You can't let the stigma keep you from taking the necessary steps to get the care and compensation you've earned. Don't let pride keep you from taking care of yourself and your family. And don't let anyone, including that little voice inside your own head, tell you that acknowledging your disability somehow makes you less of a person. In reality, it makes you stronger. It makes you relatable. It makes you human. Remember, getting help isn't giving up. It's following through on your commitment to serve, just in a different way. That's going to wrap it up for today's episode of Vets with Benefits. You're not just a listener, you're part of our community. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Did you learn something new? How might you change how you view your own disability or the disabilities others have? What's your takeaway? I'd love to hear it. If today's topic hits home for you, like and share this with your friends, your family, your colleagues, and anyone else you think needs to hear this message. And thanks. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. As a quick reminder, yes, I am a lawyer, but I am not your lawyer unless we already agreed to work together. While the things we talk about on this podcast may be legal in nature, it is not legal advice. If you need a lawyer, you should reach out to a qualified, licensed attorney in your area. This podcast and all of its content are owned by BSCC Media, LLC. Thanks for listening.